The War Council chamber aboard the dreadnought Eternal Fang smelled like victory and overconfidence, which, as it turned out, was a truly terrible combination. I am Krell Vosh, Supreme Military Coordinator of the Galactic Concordance, and I have orchestrated the subjugation of 47 worlds. 47, that number used to mean something. It used to make younger species tremble and older ones nod with grim respect. But then we found Earth, and suddenly my impressive resume felt like a child's crayon drawing next to a masterpiece. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the moment when everything started going spectacularly, horrifically wrong. The primitives have been given their ultimatum, announced General Thax Quinn, his 4 eyes gleaming with what I can only describe as malicious glee. 72 standard cycles to surrender unconditionally, or we reduce their cities to glass. The council chamber erupted in clicks, chirps, and satisfied hisses. 3 days. We had given the humans 3 days. It seemed generous, honestly. Most species we encountered did not even get a formal warning. We just showed up, demonstrated our superior firepower by atomizing a moon or two, and watched them fall over themselves to sign the surrender documents. Their military capabilities are laughable, continued Thax Quinn, pulling up holographic data streams that painted Earth as the galactic equivalent of a soft target. Primitive chemical propulsion. Nuclear weapons that they actually considered devastating. No energy shields. No plasma weaponry. They have not even achieved faster-than-light travel on their own. I leaned back in my command throne, my sensory tendrils twitching with satisfaction. Have they responded to our message? Yes, Coordinator. Thax Quinn's voice carried a hint of amusement. They have requested a formal meeting. They want to send an ambassador to negotiate terms. The chamber filled with the concordance equivalent of laughter. A chittering, buzzing sound that made the air vibrate. Negotiate? I could not help but marvel at the audacity. What exactly do they think they have to negotiate with? Apparently, said Science Officer Meltorian, her scales shimmering with barely contained mirth. They believe they can convince us to reconsider. Humor them, I decided, waving a manipulator appendage dismissively. Let them send their ambassador. It will be entertaining to watch them beg. Perhaps we can record it for the archives. Future conquests always appreciate seeing how their predecessors groveled. Oh, how the universe loves to punish arrogance. The human ambassador arrived exactly 12 standard cycles later, which surprised me. Most species spent their precious deadline time either panicking or mounting desperate, doomed defensive operations. But the humans, they sent a representative right away, calm as anything. The shuttle that docked with our flagship was absurdly primitive. I watched it approach on the viewscreen, a clunky metal box held together with what appeared to be hope and questionable engineering. It had visible rivets. Rivets, like something from a museum display about pre-industrial spaceflight. Should we scan it for weapons? Asked Security Chief Ward Kess, his battle armor gleaming under the chamber lights. Please, I scoffed. What are they going to do? Throw rocks at us? Note to self, never say things like that. The universe is listening, and it has a wicked sense of humor. The human who emerged from the shuttle was not what I expected. And believe me, after conquering 47 worlds, I thought I had seen everything. She was small by concordant standards, barely reaching the mid-thorax of most council members. Her hair was an unusual shade of auburn, pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. She wore a simple black suit, no armor, no visible weapons, no technological enhancements, just cloth and confidence. What struck me most were her eyes, blue-green like Earth's oceans, and completely calm. Not the false calm of someone trying to hide fear, but genuine, bone-deep composure, like she was attending a routine business meeting instead of negotiating for her entire species' survival. Hello, she said, her voice clear and steady through the translation matrix. My name is Ambassador Victoria Grant. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Polite. She was being polite. I glanced at Thax Quinn, who looked equally perplexed. Ambassador Grant, I began, making sure my voice carried the appropriate weight of absolute authority. I am Supreme Military Coordinator Krell Vosh. You understand the situation your world faces, yes? Total surrender within 60 cycles or annihilation. I understand perfectly. She smiled. Actually smiled. That is precisely what I wanted to discuss. There is nothing to discuss, interjected Thax Quinn, his patience clearly wearing thin. Your species will submit to concordance rule, or you will be eliminated. These are your only options. Victoria Grant turned to face him directly, that smile never wavering. General, With all due respect, I think you have misunderstood who is surrendering to whom. The chamber went silent. Not the anticipatory silence before violence, but the stunned silence of beings who cannot quite process what they just heard. I beg your pardon? I managed to say, my voice strangled with disbelief. Let me clarify. Victoria pulled a small datapad from her jacket, the kind of primitive device that could probably be outcomputed by a Concordance child's toy. You have given Earth 72 hours to surrender. I am here to offer you a counterproposal. A counterproposal. I repeated the words slowly, testing them, because surely I had misheard through the translator. Yes. She tapped her datapad and a holographic image appeared above it. A star map. You surrender to us within the next 3 standard cycles, or we dismantle your concordance piece by piece. If the previous silence was stunned, this one was absolutely flabbergasted. Thax Quinn made a choking sound. Meltoran's scales went completely pale. Even Vorel Kess, who had faced down armed insurgencies without flinching, took a step backward. I should have been angry. I should have been insulted. Instead, I felt a strange prickling sensation along my neural ridge, the concordance equivalent of a warning bell. You cannot be serious, I said quietly. Deadly serious. Victoria's smile gained an edge, something sharp and dangerous lurking beneath the pleasant exterior. See, you made several critical errors in your assessment of humanity. Errors that quite frankly are going to cost you everything. We have studied your species extensively, protested Meltoran, her scientific pride wounded. We know your capabilities. You are primitives playing with nuclear fire. You studied what we let you study, corrected Victoria, and there was that edge again, cutting through the pretense. You scanned our surface, analyzed our broadcasts, and concluded we were easy prey. You never bothered to look deeper. Deeper, I could not help myself. Despite the absurdity of the situation, I was curious. Victoria's smile widened. Tell me, Coordinator, in all your conquest of 47 worlds, have you ever encountered a species that achieved nuclear weapons before achieving flight? I paused. No. Have you ever encountered a species that went from first powered flight to landing on their own moon in 66 years? That would be unprecedented. Have you ever encountered a species that literally threw themselves into space on top of controlled explosions because they were too impatient to wait for better technology? Thax Quinn made a dismissive gesture. Recklessness is not strength. No, agreed Victoria pleasantly. But it is an indicator. See, every other species you have conquered developed logically, methodically. They advanced their technology in measured steps, always prioritizing safety and efficiency. They were reasonable. And humans are not reasonable? I asked. Though I was beginning to suspect I knew the answer. Coordinator, we are the least reasonable species you will ever meet. Victoria's eyes glinted with something that made my sensory tendrils retract involuntarily. We are the species that domesticated wolves because we thought it would be fun. We are the species that looked at the deadliest animals on our planet and decided to ride them, eat them, or make them into pets. Sometimes, all three. This is irrelevant, snapped Thax Quinn, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Is it? Victoria turned to face him again. You scanned Earth's surface and saw primitive missiles and conventional armies. You saw what we wanted you to see. You never asked yourselves why a species with our technological level has a space station, or why that space station is so unnecessarily large. Meltoran's scales flickered through several colors, a sign of deep unease. You are bluffing. Am I? Victoria tapped her datapad again. Do you want to know what we keep on that unnecessarily large space station, science officer? Enlighten us, I said. Because at this point, what else could I do? Kinetic kill vehicles. Thousands of them. Tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, positioned in orbital weapons platforms that you dismissed as communications satellites. No explosives, no power source, no energy signature to detect. Just mass and velocity. We call them rods from God. The chamber had gone very, very quiet. You are lying, said Thax Quinn, but he sounded uncertain now. Drop one from orbit. Let gravity do the work, and it hits with the force of a small nuclear weapon. No radiation, no fallout, just kinetic energy. We have been building them for 30 years, and you never noticed, because you were looking for sophisticated threats. You never considered that humans would weaponize gravity itself. I felt a cold sensation spreading through my core. That is barbaric. That is human. Victoria's smile was gone now, replaced by an expression of absolute seriousness. We have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. We knew, eventually, someone would come. Someone always does. So we prepared. Even if what you say is true, I argued, grasping for logic, you cannot possibly have enough of these weapons to threaten our entire fleet. You are correct. Victoria nodded agreeably. The orbital platforms are just the welcome mat. Shall I tell you about Project Scorched Earth? I did not want to know. Every instinct I possessed screamed at me to shut this conversation down, to vaporize this insufferable human and her impossible claims. But I had to know. I had to understand what we had stumbled into. Tell me. Every major nation on Earth maintains a nuclear arsenal, Victoria began, her tone conversational like she was discussing weather patterns. Publicly, we claim we are reducing these weapons, working toward disarmament. In reality, we have been refitting them, updating them. We have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach orbit. Coordinator, do you understand what that means? Miltaran made a strangled sound. You would not. We absolutely would. Victoria's voice was ice. Every ship in your fleet is currently targeted by multiple nuclear warheads equipped with orbital thrusters. Not our best weapons, mind you. Not our newest technology. Just good old-fashioned atomic bombs. Hundreds of them all pointed at you. You gave us 3 days, we needed 3 hours. This is insanity, breathed Thax Quinn. This is mad, actually. Mutually assured destruction. It is a doctrine we developed during our Cold War. The basic premise is simple. If you have the power to destroy me, and I have the power to destroy you, and we both know that neither of us can win, then nobody fights, except we adapted it for space warfare. I could barely form words. You would sacrifice yourselves? In a heartbeat. Victoria's certainty was absolute. Humanity has a saying, Coordinator. If we are going down, we are taking you with us. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We fight until there is nothing left to fight with, and then we fight with whatever is left. You cannot destroy our entire concordance with nuclear weapons, I pointed out, trying to salvage some fragment of our strategic superiority. No, but we can destroy your fleet. And while your fleet burns, our transmissions are already spreading across this sector, showing every other species in the concordance exactly how to build our weapons, kinetic kill vehicles, orbital nuclear platforms, every dirty trick we have developed over centuries of warfare, all freely shared. How many of your conquered worlds do you think will stay conquered once they realize they can fight back? The implication hit me like a physical blow. The concordance maintained control through technological superiority and military might. If humans shared their weapons technology, every subjugated world would have the tools to rebel. The entire structure would collapse. This is blackmail, I said weakly. This is negotiation, corrected Victoria. You wanted to conquer Earth because we looked weak. We are showing you why that was a catastrophically bad assessment. Now let me explain your actual option. She held up one finger. Option 1. You withdraw your fleet immediately, leave our solar system and never come back. In exchange, we do not vaporize your ships. We do not share our weapons technology and we pretend this embarrassing incident never happened. A second finger. Option 2. You attack us. We destroy your fleet. Some of our cities burn. Millions of humans die. But we make sure to send all our weapons data to every species within communication range before we go. The concordance faces system-wide rebellion and eventually collapses. A third finger. Option 3. And this is my personal favorite. You surrender to us. Acknowledge that humanity is not to be conquered. Sign a mutual defense pact. Share your faster-than-light technology. In exchange, we help you maintain order in the concordance. Because here is the thing, Coordinator. We are really, really good at warfare. Frighteningly good. We have been practicing on each other for thousands of years. I stared at this small human, this impossible creature who had walked into our war council and systematically dismantled everything we thought we knew. You are bluffing, I tried one last time. Victoria Grant smiled again, and this time there was nothing pleasant about it. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey. Would you like to test that theory? She asked softly. Because I promise you, Coordinator, you gave us 3 days to surrender. You will not last 3 seconds if you pull that trigger. The silence stretched. Every being in that chamber was doing the same calculation. The same terrible, unavoidable math. Could we defeat Earth? Probably. Our weapons were more advanced. Our ships were faster. Our technology was superior in every measurable way. But could we win? That was the real question. Because winning meant more than destroying the enemy. It meant surviving to enjoy the victory. And if humans could do even half of what this ambassador claimed, The cost would be catastrophic. Worse, if they shared their weapons technology, the cost would be civilization ending. I looked at Victoria Grant standing there in her primitive cloth suit, unarmed and utterly confident, and realized something profound. Humanity had not been preparing for peace. They had been preparing for war since the day they first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. They had been waiting for us, and we had just made the biggest mistake in Concordance history by giving them a reason to unleash everything they had been holding back. How long do we have to decide? I asked quietly. Victoria checked her primitive wristwatch, an actual mechanical device with moving parts. You gave us 72 hours. I will give you 72 minutes. I suggest you use them wisely. She turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the absolutely silent chamber. At the doorway, she paused and looked back over her shoulder. Oh, and Coordinator, one more thing. Yes? My voice sounded hollow even to my own auditory sensors. Everything I have told you today? That is what we are willing to tell you. That is the technology we do not mind you knowing about. Imagine what we are keeping secret. Then she was gone, leaving 47 conquerors sitting in stunned silence, contemplating the horrifying possibility that we had not discovered a primitive world ripe for conquest. We had disturbed a sleeping monster, and it was smiling. The 72 minutes that followed Ambassador Victoria Grant's departure were, without exaggeration, the longest of my entire military career. And I have lived through 3 separate assassination attempts, a plasma core breach, and that incident on Kilvor 9 that we do not talk about anymore. The War Council chamber had transformed from a place of confident superiority into something resembling a funeral parlor. Everyone was looking at everyone else, waiting for anyone, to say something that would make sense of what had just happened. Thax Quinn broke the silence first, which was typical. The general had never met an uncomfortable silence he could not fill with aggressive posturing. This is ridiculous, he announced, slamming one of his primary appendages against the tactical display. We are allowing ourselves to be intimidated by a single unarmed primitive. We have the most powerful military force in 7 sectors. We should vaporize their planet and be done with it. And if she was telling the truth about the nuclear weapons? Asked Meltorin quietly. Her scales had settled into a sickly gray color that indicated severe stress. If they can reach our ships, then we activate defensive shields and shoot them down, Thax Quinn retorted. We have point defense systems specifically designed for missile interception, designed for missiles traveling at conventional speeds. I pointed out, my voice flat. Nuclear weapons falling from orbit would be traveling at terminal velocity. Multiple warheads, simultaneous impact vectors, primitive guidance systems that our sensors might not even recognize as threats until too late. Borelkes, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. I ran probability simulations while the human was speaking. His voice carried none of its usual martial confidence. If Earth launches even 50 nuclear weapons at this fleet, and if those weapons are positioned in orbital platforms as she claimed, our point defense systems would intercept approximately 68% of them. 68% is acceptable losses, said Thax Quinn. Acceptable? Vorel Kess's battle armor made a grinding sound as he turned to face the general. That means 32% would impact, 16 nuclear detonations across our fleet. At minimum, we would lose 8 capital ships, and suffer critical damage to another 12. That is nearly 40% of our strike force, General. And that is assuming they only launch 50 weapons. The human said hundreds. The chamber went quiet again. Mathematics has a way of cutting through bravado like a plasma torch through hull plating. There is another factor we must consider, added Meltorin, pulling up data streams with trembling manipulators. I have been analyzing Earth's technological development curve. The rate of advancement is disturbing. How so? I leaned forward, my sensory tendrils focused entirely on her. Most species follow a logarithmic growth pattern. Steady, predictable advancement over millennia. But humans? She highlighted a graph that looked less like a curve and more like a cliff face. They went from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear weapons in 150 years, from no flight capability to landing on their moon in 66 years, as the ambassador mentioned. From their first orbital satellite to a permanent space station in 43 years. Your point? Demanded Thax Quinn. My point, General, is that their rate of advancement is exponential. Accelerating. If this pattern continues and if they reverse engineer our faster-than-light technology, they could match our capabilities within a single generation. Perhaps less. I felt that cold sensation spreading through my core again. You are saying that if we leave them alone, they will eventually become a threat anyway. I am saying that humanity is already a threat, Meltarin corrected. We simply failed to recognize it because we were measuring them against our own developmental standards. By our metrics, they should still be struggling with basic spaceflight. Instead, they have weaponized their entire orbital space and developed a military doctrine based on the assumption that they will eventually face superior forces. They have been preparing for us, I said softly. The full implications finally sinking in. Not humans in general. Not someday. They have been specifically preparing for the moment when a technologically superior force would attempt to conquer them. It explains their nuclear arsenals, mused Voralkes. They maintain weapons capable of destroying their own planet multiple times over. What species does that unless they are planning to use them against someone else? A species that expects to be attacked, I answered. Species that has studied their own history and concluded that the strong always prey on the weak, so they made themselves strong enough that the cost of predation would be unacceptable. Thax Quinn was pacing now, his forelegs carrying him in agitated circles. So what do you propose, Coordinator? That we simply surrender? Accept humiliation? Allow a primitive world to dictate terms to the Galactic Concordance? I propose we consider the actual strategic situation instead of reacting with wounded pride. I snapped back. Ambassador Grant gave us 3 options. Let us analyze them rationally. I pulled up a holographic display laying out the scenarios. Option 1. We withdraw. We lose face but we maintain our fleet. Our concordance remains stable, and humanity has no reason to share their weapons technology with our subjugated worlds. The status quo continues -1 potential conquest. Unacceptable, growled Thax Quinn. Option 2. We attack. Best case scenario, we destroy Earth's military capabilities before they can launch their weapons. We lose perhaps 10% of our fleet to conventional defense. Worst case scenario, they launch everything. We lose 40% of our fleet. They still transmit their weapons data across the sector, and we spend the next decade suppressing rebellions on every conquered world. Also unacceptable, admitted Thax Quinn, though his voice carried less certainty. Option 3. We accept their surrender terms. We provide faster-than-light technology. We establish a mutual defense pact. We gain access to their unconventional weapons development exchange for making them a protected member of the Concordance rather than a conquered one. That is not conquest, protested Thax Quinn. That is alliance. Exactly, I said. Which means it is not what we came here to do, but it might be the smartest move available. Meltarin was nodding slowly, her scales gradually returning to a healthier color. An alliance with Earth would have certain advantages. Their weapons technology, while primitive, is highly innovative. Kinetic kill vehicles require no power source and are nearly undetectable. That alone would be valuable in asymmetric warfare scenarios. Plus, added Voralkes thoughtfully, if humans are as good at warfare as they claim, having them as allies instead of enemies makes tactical sense. Better to have the crazy species who weaponizes gravity on our side. I looked at my war council, seeing the shift happening in real time. We had come here as conquerors, secure in our superiority. Now we were scrambling to find a way out of this mess that would not end in disaster. We need more information, I decided. Meltarin, I want full analysis of everything we know about human military history. Every war they have fought, every weapon they have developed. I want to know if Ambassador Grant was exaggerating or if we are actually looking at a species that out-militarizes the Concordance. On it, Coordinator. She was already pulling up data streams, her manipulators flying across the interface. Voralkes, run additional combat simulations, every possible scenario. I want to know our exact odds in a full engagement. Understood. Thax Quinn, review our intelligence on the conquered worlds. How many have the industrial capacity to build human-style weapons if given the technical specifications? The general's aggressive posturing had evaporated, replaced by grim professionalism. At least 23 worlds have sufficient manufacturing infrastructure. More if they cooperate with each other. So, if humanity shares their weapons data, we potentially face 24 simultaneous rebellions, all armed with weapons specifically designed to counter our technological advantages. Correct. I leaned back in my command throne, feeling the weight of command pressing down on me like a physical force. 47 worlds conquered, an unblemished record of military success, and now, one small blue planet was about to either end my career or redefine it entirely. How much time has passed, I asked. 43 minutes, reported Voralkes. 29 minutes left to make a decision that would determine the fate of the Concordance. Meltarin suddenly made a sharp whistling sound, her version of alarm. Coordinator, you need to see this. She projected a holographic timeline. Thousands of data points representing human military conflicts. I watched, transfixed, as the pattern emerged. They have been in a state of warfare for 92% of their recorded history, Meltoran said, her voice hushed with something approaching awe. 92%, Coordinator? They have almost never been at peace. That is barbaric, breathed Faxquin. That is experience, I corrected. Look at the tactical innovation. Every conflict introduces new weapons, new strategies, chemical weapons, biological agents, nuclear bombs, guided missiles, stealth technology, cyber warfare. They do not just fight war, they revolutionize warfare with every engagement. Faller Kess was highlighting specific conflicts. This one, their Second World War. 60 million casualties. They developed radar jet engines, ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons all within 6 years. 6 years of technological advancement that would take most species 6 decades. Here, added Meltoran, pointing to another data cluster. Their Cold War. They did not fight directly, so instead they turned their entire civilization into a weapons development laboratory. Intercontinental missiles, satellite surveillance, stealth aircraft, computer encryption, all developed during a period of so-called peace. I was beginning to understand something profoundly disturbing about humanity. They did not just prepare for war. When war was imminent, they lived in a constant state of readiness, always developing, always innovating, always assuming the next conflict was just over the horizon, because for them it always was. Pull up their cultural data, I ordered. Entertainment, media, literature, art. Meltoran complied, flooding the display with information. Movies, books, games, all focused on conflict. Alien invasions were a major theme. Dozens of scenarios where humanity faced extinction from superior force. They fantasize about this, I said, the realization hitting me. They create entertainment about being invaded, conquered, nearly destroyed, and then fighting back. Ambassador Grant did not develop those strategies during this crisis. Her entire species has been theorizing, planning, and preparing for this exact scenario for generations. It is their dominant cultural narrative, confirmed Meltoran. The underdog who defeats the overwhelming force, the primitive species that outsmarts the advanced empire. They have told themselves this story so many times that they believe it. More than believe it, they have made it their operational doctrine. Faxquin had stopped pacing. He was staring at the cultural data with what I can only describe as horrified fascination. We picked a fight with a species whose favorite pastime is imagining how to defeat us. Worse, I said, we picked a fight with a species that has been unified by nothing except external threats. Look at their history. Constant internal warfare, thousands of separate nations and factions. But the moment they face an outside enemy, they unify. Instantly. Completely. Voral Kess pulled up recent transmissions from Earth. Coordinator, since our ultimatum, every major human nation has ceased all hostilities with each other. Trade disputes, resolved. Territorial conflicts, suspended. Political divisions set aside. They have formed a unified planetary defense in less than 72 hours. Of course they have, I said bitterly. We did exactly what would make them most dangerous. We gave them a common enemy. The timer showed 18 minutes remaining. Combat simulation results are complete, announced Voral Kess. He did not sound happy. In every scenario where we initiate hostilities, we suffer unacceptable losses. Even our best-case projections result in 30% fleet casualties. Worst-case scenarios project total fleet annihilation. How? Demanded Faxquin. They are primitives. They are primitives who fight dirty, corrected Voral Kess. The simulations account for conventional warfare. But humans do not fight conventionally. According to their military history, they employ tactics like kamikaze attacks, suicide bombings, and scorched earth policies. They will sacrifice everything to win. Not to win, I said quietly. Understanding finally dawning. To make sure their enemy loses. There is a difference. Meltoran was nodding, her scales rippling with patterns of deep unease. Their nuclear doctrine is not about victory. It is about ensuring mutual destruction. They are willing to die if it means taking their enemy with them. That is not rational behavior. It is perfectly rational, I argued. If your opponent knows you will definitely retaliate, even at the cost of your own destruction, they cannot threaten you. You become untouchable because the price of touching you is unacceptable. Ambassador Grant was not bluffing. She was stating a mathematical certainty. 10 minutes remaining. I looked around the War Council, seeing the same realization reflected in every face. We had not encountered a primitive world. We had encountered a world that had chosen to appear primitive while secretly preparing for interstellar warfare. Option 3, I said finally. We accept their terms. Coordinator Thax Quinn's voice was pained, but he did not argue. He could read the tactical displays as well as anyone. The other council members will not understand. Our reputation will suffer. Our reputation will survive, I countered. Our fleet might not. Besides, think about what we gain. Faster access to unconventional weapons technology. A military alliance with a species that specializes in asymmetric warfare, and most importantly, we avoid creating a precedent where conquered worlds realize they can resist us. You mean we avoid giving them a template for rebellion, said Meltaran. Exactly. If we crush Earth, every subjugated species sees their weapons data and starts building kinetic kill vehicles and orbital nuclear platforms. If we accept Earth as an ally, the other worlds see business as usual. The concordance remains stable. Vorolkes was reviewing the alliance terms. The humans are requesting faster-than-light technology and full membership status in the concordance. In exchange, they offer military support and technological cooperation. Accept it, I decided. All of it. The council will demand explanations, warned Thax Quinn. Then I will explain that we encountered a species capable of inflicting catastrophic losses on our fleet, and instead of wasting resources in a Pyrrhic victory, we secured them as allies. Any council member who disagrees is welcome to come here and fight the humans themselves. 5 minutes remaining. Send a message to Ambassador Grant, I ordered. Inform her that the Galactic Concordance accepts Earth's terms. We will sign a mutual defense pact and provide the requested technology. In exchange, Earth will maintain the confidentiality of their weapon systems and provide military consultation as needed. Meltaran hesitated. Coordinator, are we certain this is wise? Once they have faster-than-light technology, they will spread throughout the galaxy. In a generation, maybe 2, they could rival the concordance itself. I know, I said quietly. But consider the alternative. If we attack them now, we create an enemy that will never stop, never forgive, and never forget. They will rebuild, they will innovate, and eventually they will come for us with weapons we cannot even imagine yet. Better to have them inside the concordance, where we can monitor them and benefit from their expertise. You are afraid of them? Said Thax Quinn. It was not an accusation. It was an observation. Terrified, I admitted freely. And that is why this is the right decision. Fear is the appropriate response to a species that weaponizes gravity, maintains enough nuclear weapons to sterilize their own planet, and considers mutually assured destruction to be a viable defensive strategy. 2 minutes remaining. The communication console chimed. Ambassador Victoria Grant's face appeared on the view screen. That same calm, confident expression firmly in place. Coordinator Krell Vosh, she greeted me. I hope you have had time to consider your options. We accept your terms, Ambassador, I said, managing to keep my voice steady. The Galactic Concordance welcomes Earth as a full member species. We will provide faster-than-light technology and recognize your sovereignty. In exchange, Earth will maintain operational security regarding your weapon systems and provide military consultation when requested. Victoria Grant's smile widened, and I saw something in her eyes that made me profoundly grateful we had made this decision. Not triumph, not gloating, just satisfaction that her strategy had worked exactly as planned. Excellent choice, Coordinator, she said warmly. I believe this is the beginning of a very productive partnership. We look forward to working with the Concord. As do we, I lied smoothly. Then, because I had to know, I asked the question that had been bothering me since she left. Ambassador Grant, everything you told us about your weapons capabilities, was it all true? Her smile took on that dangerous edge again. Would it matter if it was not? And there it was. The beautiful, terrible truth of human strategy. It did not matter if they actually had thousands of kinetic kill vehicles, or hundreds of orbital nuclear platforms. All that mattered was that we believed they did, and that belief was enough to change our behavior. Maybe they were bluffing. Maybe they had exactly the capabilities they claimed. Maybe they had even more hidden away, waiting for the right moment to reveal. We would never know for certain, and that uncertainty would always protect them. No, I admitted, it would not matter at all. Then I suggest we focus on the future rather than the past, Victoria said diplomatically. I will transmit the formal treaty documents for your review. I think you will find the terms quite reasonable. The transmission ended. leaving the War Council in contemplative silence. "We just got outmaneuvered by a species that has not even achieved faster than light travel," said Thax Quinn finally. "Yes," I agreed. "Yes, we did." "What do we tell the other Concordance members?" asked Forcase. I thought about that for a moment, then made my decision. We tell them the truth. We tell them we encountered a species so militarily innovative, so strategically sophisticated, and so fundamentally unpredictable that conquest would have been catastrophically expensive. We tell them that we made the intelligent choice to recruit them instead of fighting them, and if they do not believe us, pressed Meltorin, then we show them the combat simulations. We show them the cultural data. We show them a species that has spent its entire existence preparing for war. And then we let them draw their own conclusion. I stood from my command throne, feeling older and wiser than I had 72 minutes ago. Send the order to the fleet. We are withdrawing from Earth's solar system. Navigation. Plot a course back to Concordant space. Communications. Prepare a full report for the High Council. As the crew moved to execute my orders, I took one last look at the blue planet rotating peacefully on the view screen. From here it looked so innocent, so harmless. We had almost made a terminal mistake by believing that appearance. Humanity had taught the Galactic Concordance a valuable lesson today. Never ever judge a species by their technological level alone. Because sometimes the primitives are only primitive in the ways that do not matter, and absolutely terrifying in the ways that do. 3 days to surrender, Ambassador Grant had been told. 3 seconds, she had promised, was all we would last if we made the wrong choice. Looking at the tactical data, the combat projections, the sheer innovative brutality of human warfare doctrine, I suspected she had been generous with that estimate. The Concordance had conquered 47 worlds. Earth would have been 48. Instead, Earth became the first world to conquer us without firing a single shot, and somehow that felt entirely appropriate.